Imagine you're an investigative journalist. One ordinary day you get a strange email. No introduction, no name, just one line. Do you want some data? Most people would delete it without a second thought, but something about it pulls you in. Curiosity wins. You open it, and suddenly millions of leaked files start scrolling across your screen. And these aren't just random documents. These are internal records from one of the most secretive law firms on the planet. A firm that quietly managed money for some of the most powerful people in the world. Presidents, celebrities, tech billionaires, even dictators. All of them in one place. As you start going through the data, one thing becomes very clear very fast. This isn't about a few people cheating on their taxes. This is something much bigger. This is an entire system, a hidden financial network that has been quietly moving trillions of dollars around the world for decades. And almost nobody talks about it. So let's talk about it. For most of us, money is pretty straightforward. Your paycheck hits your bank account. Your name is on that account. You pay your taxes. If you buy a car, it's registered to you. If you buy a house, your name is on the deed. Every dollar you earn, every asset you own, it's all tied directly back to you. The government knows what you have, and they tax you on it. But for billionaires, it works in a completely different way. Their money is almost never sitting directly under their name. Not because they're hiding in some dark basement somewhere, but because the entire system is designed to create distance. Layer after layer of legal separation between the person and their wealth. And the more layers there are, the harder it becomes to trace anything back to them. Harder for tax collectors, harder for investigators, harder for anyone asking questions. So how exactly does this work? Let's walk through it. It usually starts with picking the right country. Not where you live, but where your money lives. Places like the Cayman Islands, the British Virgin Islands, Bermuda, or Luxembourg. These are what people call tax havens. And yeah, the taxes there are extremely low. But honestly, that's almost a side benefit. The real advantage is secrecy. In many of these places, you can set up a company without your name ever appearing anywhere public. Instead of your name on the paperwork, there's just a company name. Something like Caribbean Holdings Limited. That's it. That's layer one. The billionaire's wealth is now sitting under a company name instead of a person's name. But they don't stop there. That offshore company then starts doing things. Maybe it opens a Swiss bank account. Maybe it purchases a luxury yacht. Maybe it buys real estate in Miami or London. And all of those assets are listed under the company's name, not under any human being's name. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. That offshore company might be owned by another company registered in a completely different country. And that company might be owned by yet another company, and so on. So by the time you actually try to trace who owns what, you're looking at something like this. A company in the Cayman Islands that owns a trust in Liechtenstein that owns another company in the UAE that holds a private jet. You follow the trail through 3 or 4 countries, spending months doing it, and you still haven't found a single human name. The trail just goes cold. Or it gets so tangled that it would take years and millions of dollars in legal fees to fully unravel. And on top of all of this, there are trusts. A trust is essentially a legal vault. The way it works is simple. A trustee holds assets on behalf of someone called a beneficiary. But here's the key part. The beneficiary's name doesn't have to appear in any public record. So in practice, a billionaire can be the beneficiary of a trust, meaning they still benefit from the wealth, they still control how it's used, but legally, on paper, the assets belong to the trust, not to them. Tax investigators often can't see the real person behind it. And when that person eventually passes away, the wealth quietly transfers to the next generation without ever showing up in a public record. No inheritance tax, no paper trail, just a seamless handoff behind closed doors. And then they repeat all of this multiple times. An offshore company here, a trust there, each one in a different country with different laws. Add in crypto wallets, art collections, yacht corporations, real estate holding companies, and every single layer that gets added makes the whole picture more confusing. Each structure is designed with a specific purpose, but when you stack them together, they create something much bigger. It's not just about hiding ownership anymore. It's about making the entire system so complex that even if someone tries to understand it, they get lost halfway through. It's not one shell company, it's an ocean of them. A global maze where every single move is technically legal on paper, but nearly impossible to follow on a map. And the deeper you try to go, the more complicated it becomes, because every answer leads to another question, and every entity leads to another entity somewhere else in the world. We got a real look at how this system works back in 2016 when a massive leak called the Panama Papers hit the news. Journalists got access to 11.5 million documents from a Panama-based law firm, and what they found was staggering. World leaders hiding cash, celebrities funneling income through offshore accounts, major corporations using complex arrangements to avoid taxes. It wasn't just a few isolated cases, it was a pattern repeated across countries and industries. The documents revealed connections that most people never imagined existed, linking powerful individuals to offshore entities in ways that were carefully hidden from the public eye. For a moment, it felt like the whole world was paying attention, like maybe this time, things would actually change. Governments started responding, investigations were launched, and there was a sense that this hidden system had finally been exposed. Then, in 2021, the Pandora Papers came out, an even larger leak, exposing even more. Same story, bigger scale. More documents, more names, more connections. From Europe to Asia to Latin America to right here in the US, the rich and powerful were all using the same playbook. Different countries, different advisors, different structures, but the core idea remained exactly the same. Move the money, separate the ownership, and create as much distance as possible. It showed that this wasn't limited to one region or one group of people. It was global, coordinated, and deeply embedded in the financial system. And for a moment, people were genuinely angry. Why are billionaires paying almost nothing in taxes while regular working Americans pay their full rate every single year? Why does this parallel financial system even exist? Why isn't anyone stopping it? These questions weren't just coming from experts or journalists anymore. They were being asked by everyday people who started to realize how uneven the system really is. The frustration wasn't just about money, it was about fairness. It was about the idea that the rules seem to apply differently depending on how much power and wealth you have. But then something interesting happened. The system adapted. The specific loopholes that got exposed were studied carefully by the very lawyers and wealth advisors who helped build these structures. Instead of shutting things down, they refined them. Strategies got tweaked. New jurisdictions stepped up to offer even more secrecy. Trust laws got quietly updated in certain countries. Financial products evolved, and the people at the top stayed exactly one step ahead, because they can afford to hire the best legal minds in the world to make sure they do. What looked like an ending was actually just another phase of evolution. The system didn't break, it improved. Today, honestly, it's more complex than it's ever been. Private banking networks and offshore advisory firms have grown into massive, sophisticated industries. And now technology is adding new layers on top of everything. Blockchain, digital assets, encrypted crypto wallets. Imagine a company holding hundreds of millions in digital currency behind encrypted keys that no court order can easily access. And legally, almost all of it is still allowed. Because if there's no law explicitly stopping you from linking 10 companies across 10 different countries, you do it. Simple as that. Meanwhile, the rest of us have none of these options. Our income is tied to our social security number. Every dollar we earn is reported automatically. If an average American tried to pull off even a fraction of this, hiding money in offshore accounts, setting up shell companies, it would be a federal crime. But for someone with enough capital and the right team of lawyers, it's done with full legal compliance. That's the uncomfortable reality here. It's not that billionaires are breaking the law, it's that the law was never really written to apply to them the same way it applies to everyone else. And for governments trying to chase this money, it's a nightmare. Each country's tax authority has to get court orders just to request information from another country, and those requests often run right into secrecy laws. Tracing the finances of even one wealthy individual can cost millions in legal resources, and by the time investigators actually follow a trail somewhere, the assets have usually already moved. Economists estimate that somewhere between $10 and $30 trillion is sitting in offshore accounts around the world right now. That's money that governments never collected in taxes. That's money that never went towards schools, roads, hospitals, or public infrastructure. And that's why critics say this isn't just a financial trick, it's a real problem with real consequences for real people. There is some progress being made. More countries are now agreeing to share financial data with each other. Banks face more pressure to flag and report suspicious accounts. Beneficial ownership registries, basically public records of who actually owns companies, are slowly being introduced in more places. But every time a new rule comes in, a new workaround gets developed. It really is a never-ending cat-and-mouse game, playing out quietly at a global scale. Once you understand how this system works, you start seeing it everywhere. A mysterious company name behind a property title. A foreign trust buried in the background of a business deal. The next time you hear that some billionaire paid zero in federal taxes, you'll know. It's not a glitch, and it's not magic. It's distance. Deliberate, carefully constructed, legally airtight distance between a person and their wealth. The money isn't gone. It didn't disappear. It's still out there, still being used, still being enjoyed, just hidden in plain sight behind an elaborate maze of legal entities. And until transparency laws genuinely catch up on a global scale, this hidden wealth network isn't going anywhere. Thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel grow. Drop a comment below if you have questions or if there's a topic you'd like me to dig into next. See you in the next one.